right, Lisa, agree or disagree right off the top. It feels like football again.
But on the grass.
I mean, it's April. We're a few days away from the draft. But the Cardinals, you're right off the practice field earlier this afternoon, and you're on the Cardinals Coaches Chronicle podcast. Go ahead, give us the introduction of our special guest to your right.
Oh, well, we have Marcus Robertson, DB coach. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How'd it go out there, by the way? Now, I know players, or some players, especially young guys, maybe a few butterflies. You've been doing this for a long time. But what about you when it's a new team and the first practice under a new head coach?
Oh, no, I've been looking forward to this since I came over from Denver, just to get the guys on the football field and get an opportunity to see what you got on the football field. And believe it or not, they handle it real well. We're making the system real player-friendly, so they should be able to execute and play at a high level. Not asking them to think, we're asking them to know what to do, and we're asking them to execute.
Does it feel long from that point of you coming here, becoming a Cardinal, and then getting back on the grass? Does it feel like it's just a long-awaited time for the anticipation really builds up?
Yeah, the longest period is when you first come over from another organization, is you really don't get an opportunity to meet the players because of the fact, because of the CBA or whatever we want to call it, and that's the bad part about it. So you got to pick up the phone, contact them, let them know you're a new defensive back coach. Obviously, they've heard. And then when you finally get an opportunity to meet them, that's when things start to rev up for us, and you start to get real excited about getting back on the grass.
I know I needed the roster today. First thing I grabbed, right? How are you with the names and numbers right now?
Oh, I'm good. I mean, that's my job. I need to know, especially everybody at my position. Now, everybody else on the team is a little bit of an issue, but I'm starting to get them slowly but surely.
And especially once we hit training camp, man. Keep that roster with you. It just gets bigger and bigger.
What are the players discovering about you? Like today on the field, right? They know you, Marcus Robertson, defensive backs coach, in the room. What about out on the gridiron? What did they discover today?
I'm tough, but I'm fair. Okay, so all I expect, I'm a firm believer that execution is worship, and if you execute at a high level, that's when the fans clap and cheer, things of that nature. And when you don't, they either boo or you get, back in the day when you were a kid, your mom would slap you on the hand. So that's kind of how I am as a coach. And if you go ahead and execute and you play at a high level, we'll have no issues, great communication, things of that nature. But if you don't execute, you're going to hear it.
As a player turned coach, who is just your biggest influence as you started to make your journey into this field?
Is as far as transferring over into coaching? Believe it or not, one of my biggest influences was 1993. I had opportunity to play for Buddy Ryan. And that year was an amazing year for us with the Houston Oilers. Obviously, we came up short. But that tutelage that we got in that season, we took that tutelage and we ran that style of defense when Jeff Fisher came over from 1993 up until really Jeff Fisher actually left the organization. But for myself, from 93 to 2000, we ran that defense. And what it asked for is your Mike backer and your free safety to be really, in essence, the quarterback of the defense. So for me, I had to know the three technique all the way to the post. And I could tell you on every single snap if a guy was out of his gap, if a guy, missed a stunt, things of that nature. And it just really accentuated my knowledge of the game. So I had to be a student of the game at a very young age, and that was a critical part of my success as an NFL player.
It's interesting, Buddy Ryan, 93, and then he was head coach of the Cardinals 94, 95.
94, yeah.
And so you were drafted in 91. You would have been a free agent or off your rookie contract.
Yeah. So actually, in 1994, when Buddy Ryan came over, he actually put in a tender for me and was willing to give up a first and a third, and the Houston Oilers actually matched it in 1994.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Man. Well, you were a two-time All-Pro, right?
Yes, sir.
So what does that do for you in the room? That credibility as a player, how does that help you as a coach?
Well, for the most part, obviously, I know what it's like to be, in big games and things of that nature. I've obviously played the game, but what I always tell my players is that I'm not going to put you in a position where I myself was uncomfortable. The other thing is that I've experienced just about everything you're about to experience. And so what I try to do from a mentor or from a coaching perspective is I really try to keep the slashes off your back to a certain degree. And so what I try to do is I try to educate and teach guys what and what not to do. And the way I try to do that is I don't just, I show it to them, I tell it to them, and then obviously I show it to them on film. We go out on the practice field, we execute it, and then I tell them don't believe me because I'm going to show you. All right, and then once you show me, then that'll give you opportunity to believe me because I played this game at a high level. The game hasn't changed. It's still 53 in the third, right? You still got to score touchdowns. And until they change the measurements of the game, I know this game like the back of my hand, honestly.
Well, you definitely sound like a football junkie, breathing football in the classroom, IQ level as well. Sounds like you demand that from your players.
Yeah, and like I said, I asked the safeties to be the quarterback of the defense. So I expect them to know when we call, a stun up front. I expect them to know what happened. I expect them to know 9 times out of 10 when they come out in the formation, if it's 3-by-1 formation, conceptually from a passing game, they should know the top 3 concepts that they're getting out of the passing situation, as well as they should know the top 3 runs coming out of the situation based on either the alignment, the 3-by-1 alignment, the depth of the tailback. So there's a lot of little fine details that go into executing at a high level. And I'm a firm believer that it's the little things that make the big difference. There's no difference from, as I explained to them, if your comma was in a different place, you'd have an issue.
Right, yeah. So Vance Joseph and his scheme, and you were with him, in Denver, obviously. The one word we hear a lot is attacking. Would you agree with that? Is that a good description for this defense?
Oh yeah, we want to dictate the offenses. We want to get offenses behind the chain, and we want to be able to get the quarterback off the spot. And there's a lot of similarities when I go back from this defense from what we did in 1993 under Buddy Ryan. It's an aggressive style defense, and we're trying to get the quarterback off the spot. The bottom line is we're not going to allow you to run the football. We want to win on first down, get off the field on third, and we want to be able to protect the paint, and that means obviously allowing teams to kick field goals and not score touchdowns.
So we have the opportunity for fans to send in questions. So someone just sent in your excitement level. They want to know your excitement level to work with Budda Baker.
I'm extremely excited about it, simply because obviously I scouted Budda coming out as a draft pick. When he came out a couple years ago, obviously I liked him then. Last year, to be honest with you, I think he kind of played out of position. So I'm gonna put him in a position where he can maximize his athletic ability, maximize his knowledge of the game. So I'm going to try to put him in position to make plays. And the way I see this guy, I hate to throw names and words around and things of this nature, but, when I'm in the classroom with this guy, he asks all the right questions. He takes the right notes. It's important to him. And what I see in him is I see, young traits of a poor man's Earl Thomas type player. So I want him to be the game changer back there in the back end.
That's meaningful for him. He grew up in Seattle, obviously.
Yeah. Exactly.
He used to work out with Earl Thomas. What about Robert Alford? Here's a new guy, and we're going to learn him, but how familiar were you with Alford?
Well, I worked with Alford when he came out in the draft. I believe I was in Detroit, and I was coaching the Senior Bowl, so I had opportunity to work with him then, coming out of Southwest Louisiana, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Did a heck of a job for us at the Senior Bowl, and we tried to get him. I ultimately ended up drafting Darius Slay in the second round up in Detroit, which wasn't a bad pick.
No, not at all.
But the bottom line with Robert Alford, as soon as he became available, myself and G Money, my corners coach, we did our homework because I knew him as a football player. I knew they played a similar style of defense that we play in some of our concepts, and I thought he'd be a great fit. Looking at the other side of Patrick Peterson, and look what has been going on here for some time, I believe that he'll be an excellent upgrade to our secondary and what we want to do.
All right, so it's unavoidable. Pat decided to put the voluntary into voluntary veterans minicamp. What's your level of concern missing Pat? We
do understand it's voluntary. We've up to today we've had just about 100% participation in the off season or the off season phase one, and we just got to wait and see. So hopefully he'll come around here tomorrow, but not too concerned about it.
Yeah, and how important is this period of time, especially with a new coaching staff and laying the foundation for the season and what's to come?
Well, I think it's vital because of the simple fact that you're running out of time. Before you know it, obviously the draft is coming this weekend. Before you know it, we'll be in OTAs, and then we're off to for the summer. And then when you come back for training camp, 2 weeks later, you're playing in a football game. So the one thing about the off season in today's football, it's only 10 weeks. and 10 weeks go by faster than you know it.
How often will your corners be on an island? How often will you task them, Jake, you're man-to-man, one-on-one, go get it done?
Well, the good thing about this system is that when they are on the island, everybody else knows it. So they're pinning their ears back, and they're trying to do whatever they possibly can to make sure they're not on the island for too long. So the way we put in the system, we give the guys a great understanding of what exactly we're trying to accomplish on this particular down. And what we want to do is we identify who has the tough down so that guys can help them out. So I can't say what percentage will be, but we're going to challenge wide receivers at the LOS, and we're going to make them throw the ball on the edges because we're going to eliminate the run game.
Coming in with Vance Joseph here to the Cardinals, just what have you seen from him that makes his defensive mind so unique?
He is very attentive to detail, and he understands situations. One of the things that like I talked about before, he wants to stay ahead of the change. We've got an outstanding package in terms of what we do out of our base, what we do out of our single package, what we do out of our nickel and dime. And like I said, in every instance, we're gonna do exactly that. We're gonna win on first down. We want to get off the field on third down, and we're gonna protect the paint.
You mentioned how everyone's going to know who has the tough task on a certain down, or who was the toughest challenge for you as a player? Was there a certain playmaker, receiver who, in hindsight, you're like, man, that guy was a challenge?
Well, it wasn't a particular player. Well, yeah, it was a player, but wasn't a wide receiver, running back, or tight end, or anything of that nature. My biggest challenge was going up against a young Peyton Manning.
I can imagine.
Just his knowledge of the game at that time, as a free safety or a defensive back, what I try to do is I try to take things away from the quarterback. And one thing about a guy like Peyton, he could see if the backer was tilted back. He could see if my foot was, if I had the right foot up or the left foot up. I mean, he was very astute in that manner, and he was a big challenge for us late in my career in Tennessee.
He would read you based on which foot was forward?
Oh, there's no question. He could see the bubble in the backers if they're not at the same level. It's ridiculous.
You have to be honest.
I mean, literally, when we played Tennessee, they literally changed the way we played our 9 techniques simply because of what they did on offense.
Wow. And was he the exception? Was he beyond?
Yeah, he was. In my playing career, with the exception of, obviously, when I was young, I played against, I obviously played with Warren Moon. I played against, Steve Young and a couple of other guys.
Right.
Back in
But
the
to
day.
decipher and get tells from the defense to that degree, was that Peyton only?
Oh, yeah, it was. I should say when I recognized it, it was Peyton who was phenomenal at it. And then, obviously, I went into coaching with Tennessee Titans, and he kept doing it to us for years. So, from the way I see it, Peyton Manning was one of the best of all times. Maybe not today, but when I walked out of the game, or when I was coaching in Tennessee, when he walked out of the game, he was probably one of the best of all times.
Is there anyone now in the game that you would compare, not to his level, obviously, that's very specific that he was honing in on, but?
Well, I mean, I think obviously, you look at a guy by the name of Tom Brady who, he takes everything that the defense gives him. He's very patient. I was just thinking about this guy yesterday. When you go back and you look at the film of the Super Bowl, he's the one guy who can win you a football game. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that you don't necessarily need quarterbacks to win you a game. You actually need quarterbacks to manage you a game and not lose a game. If you look at the Super Bowl, all right, and the way it was played, it's still the same. Offenses score points, defenses win championships. It's just that simple, and that's what you saw in the Super Bowl. But what you did see in the Super Bowl is you saw the patience of Tom Brady, who took what the defense gave him, and then when he got the right matchup, you saw the one drive where they finally got the matchup in it versus Wade Phillips' system, where he got Gronk on a linebacker, and they took advantage of him both times. And in that drive, they hit him for 2 + 20 passes. And anytime you get a +20 pass, 9 times out of 10, you're going to put points on the board. He saw the alignment. They went out there, they bumped out, and he hit him. And that was the only touchdown in the game, or ended up leading to the only touchdown in the game that made the difference.
So what's the bigger headache these days for a defensive coaching staff? A guy who beats you with his brain like a Tom Brady, or a dual threat quarterback like a Russell Wilson, who's now the highest paid player in the NFL? And I bring that up because A lot of people think that's the future of football, especially with a Kyler Murray poised perhaps to go number 1 overall.
Yeah, well, when I look at the game, I do see it starting to turn into a little bit of basketball on grass to a certain degree with the spacing and, all the different motions and the 4x1 formations, things of that nature. So I can see a little bit of that, but at the same time, I do believe that it's the quarterback is the key. Now, you can get a guy at this level. When you look at Russell Wilson, everything they do for him is designed for him to get out of the pocket, things of that nature, and he makes good decisions. When you look at Tom Brady, you see a guy who is kind of masterful in what he does. He doesn't take very many hits. He doesn't turn the ball over at a high ratio, and ultimately he doesn't hurt the defense. He either 9 times out of 10 when you watch a Tom Brady team play, they're kicking after every possession.
You're right. Yeah.
So what about Cliff Kingsbury and his offense makes it challenging for defenses that you see?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't seen this offense that we have right now, but I have been looking at Texas Tech just so I can get a feel, give my guys a little heads up. Mm-hmm. And obviously we go against our offense this afternoon, so I have a little bit more information there. But, I mean, it was air raid. So, I mean, that tells me right there they're going to be slinging the ball around, spacing us out. So
you're as curious as the rest of us as to what the offense is going to look like.
Yeah, to a certain degree. Yeah. But I have seen it. So, I pulled up the Texas Tech tape, and I looked at it, and I'm like, I'm shaking my head, okay, like, hey, how would I defend this, X, Y, Z? Right. But I am looking forward to seeing it. So, like I said, a little bit more basketball on grass. You're getting the ball out quick out of the quarterback's hands. You got your screens. You got your orbit motions, your race, your jet motions and things of that nature, trying to out-leverage the defense. So it'll be interesting to see.
Any golf yet? You had any time to do any golfing?
What? I'm looking forward to golfing. We got a golf outing coming up, I think, next Wednesday, that'll be the first time I get out. That's right. I've been either on the road or in the office since I've been here.
That's right. One of us has to MC that. I might call you up there as a golf analyst, okay?
Get
up there, you know what I mean? If you got any good dirt on any of the other guys, you know what I mean? Everybody's using the foot wedge. You let me know, okay?
I'll try to get some.
We'll hold them accountable. Coach, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.
Okay, there you go. Marcus Robertson, defensive backs coach here on the Cardinals Coaches Chronicle podcast.